Hey, my name is Monique Nolin, Lucas. Nolin is my maiden name. Lucas is my marriage name. I was born in 1968. I'm not going to tell you my age. You can figure it out. If you're smart and you know me, you know what's up. Today I'm going to give you the raw and truth life story, my own. And it's not to degrade anybody or to put anybody down. I'm not going to mention no names. But if you know me, you know who I'm talking about. But I'm going to let you have my history, raw and up and personal today.
Period. That's an intro of a lifetime right there, Monique. Wow. So let's where'd you grow up, Monique?
I grew up in San Bernardino, California.
San Bernardino.
Born and raised.
Born and raised. How was life growing up as a kid?
Life growing up as a kid for me was it was glorious. We came from a family of love. We may not have been rich, but we were rich with love. I can't tell you that I knew that I was poor because I didn't. My mom made the best of everything that she did. There wasn't a day where we had to look in the refrigerator to see if there was food. It was always food on the stove. Our house was always clean. We always did fun things. We went to the park. We played in the neighborhood. So to know that we were poor, we didn't know. We just had a life full of love and fun.
How many siblings did you have?
I had a total of 10, but 7 survived. And right now, at this current moment, there's 4 of us. It's myself, a sister, and 2 brothers.
And were you guys close? How was the whole dynamic?
We were very close family. We were brought up to know that everyone had a partner, For me, my sister was given to me as a gift. I was given to my brother as a gift, and that's how my mom, trained us or just brought us up to love one another. So we looked out for one another, and we had no animosity. We listened to our older brothers, because they knew it was best for us. They were going to look for things in our best interests and make sure that we were okay. So yeah, I came up in a family of love. Yes.
And how was your guys' relationship with your father?
My dad was a hero to me. He was the world to me. I looked up to that man. That man was great. He was a jazz player. We woke up to jazz, went to sleep to jazz. He loved his children, and till death did us part. That was my father, he never left us, he stayed with us. He was a good man to my mom, and I always thought when I got married, I was going to marry somebody like my dad. When you're a little girl, you have crushes on family members, and it's not to say that that's anything, of not good taste. It's just little girls, we look up to the guys that are around us and the men that are in our lives, and we fantasize like, ooh, I would love to have somebody like him. And for me, it was my father. He was my greatest hero. I love that man. He taught me so much.
Okay, you said there were 7 of you guys?
Yes.
And what are some of the earliest childhood memories that you have with your siblings growing up?
I could say elementary. I remember my brother Teddy doing my hair. My mom was unable to do it because she was going to work and my dad was going to work. So he would get me and my sister ready for school. He would braid our hair, get us dressed, walk us to school. That's as early as I can remember. Once I got into junior high, I went to school with my brother Kimmy, which is my youngest brother. And that was the life. I couldn't have had it any better way. We had a ball together. All the girls in the neighborhood loved him. And the brothers used to get upset with him because he hung out with me and his little sister, but he knew what he was doing because he got all the girls. He was slick. But yeah, we had a great childhood. He would make things and put us on it and hurt us, but we were his test dummies. We had a good time. I'm telling you, he was a life for sure. I love that man.
So you say you never knew that you guys were not as fortunate. When would you say was the first inkling you had, like maybe we don't have it as good as I thought?
I had a friend because we lived in Delman Heights at the time, and all the houses there are alike and everybody's going through the same thing. But you don't know as a child, that there's Section 8, that your mom is on welfare or they're getting food stamps. They don't announce that to you. Back then it was hush hush. Today they probably do, but so not knowing that everybody in the neighborhood was going through the same thing, we just felt like we lived like everybody else, And so we had this friend. I had a friend named Vicky. and her little sister used to go stay with her auntie every summer. And so one summer, they took all the girls from the hood. The father came in a van, and he took us all to, I believe they lived in Pasadena, close to Knoxbury Farm. And they took us for the summer. And we had a ball. They had this big, beautiful home. Their daughters dressed well. The house was beautiful. They had a swimming pool in the backyard. He played this game with us, like throwing pennies in the pool. And whoever could go down there and get the pennies, that's how much money he was going to give you, And so we put all these pennies together, and he was like, I'm going to take you guys to Knoxbury Farm. So he took us to Knoxbury Farm, and that was the first time that I realized that I didn't live as well as I thought I did. That was the first time that I had notion of somebody living better than me, and how I longed for that, not knowing that I longed for that. That was the first time.
How did that give you like shell shock? Was that like culture shock?
It was the best time of my life, but it had me thinking once I came home, because everything went back to normal again. And not saying that we didn't live good or that, we wanted for anything, but that was just it. We didn't want for nothing because we didn't know that we had any wants. So that was the shocking part. To know that you live in this life as a child and you think everything is great, and then somebody shows you something different, and I never wanted to go to Knoxbury Farm or to Disneyland. That was out of our scope. We didn't even think about it. If we went to the park, that was good enough. So yeah, it was something to reckon with, and something to have my mind thinking at a young age. And then from there, just experiencing that, and then realizing that our mom didn't come from nothing, and we didn't know that until we got a little older.
Where was your mom from again?
My mom was from Chihuahua, Mexico. And she came to live here when she was probably around 10. And the farthest she went in school was middle school. And so she spoke with broken English, and all she realized was her family was the most important thing to her. And she told me a long time ago that she wanted to have a lot of kids because she was creating her own family, because at the time when she got with my father, she was 15. It was frowned upon to be with a black man. And so her family kicked her to the curb, so she had no more family. So she created a big family. And she was full of love, and she taught me and my sisters well. So I appreciate that woman.
So from there, what was high school like for you?
High school was fun. It was fun. I enjoyed myself in high school.
What type of person were you?
I've always been a survivor, but I'm gonna go out there and get what I need to get. I stay happy. I really didn't think too highly of myself because I was skinny. I was only 115 pounds, and I was a slow bloomer, so I didn't have no breasts in the 9th grade, So I was kind of modest because most of the girls that I knew, they were ready to go, and they had bodies, and I was one that didn't. All I had was some long hair and probably a cute face, but other than that, I stayed happy, cheerful. There was a guy that I had a crush on from the 9th grade all the way until we got out of high school, but he never paid attention to me. He was an athlete, and all the girls wanted him, and so I was not select. He was not looking at me, but it's okay, because I'll tell you, I got him. Period.
So, okay, 9th grade, 10th grade.
10th grade, we moved to, I'll take that back. We moved to Harrington in San Bernardino on the west side when I was in middle school. And so high school, we still lived on Harrington, which was, it was a little ghetto city, that's what I can call, but the street was, when I tell you that the street was amazing, if you did your homework, did your housework, went outside, you was going to have a ball. You wasn't coming in until the street lights went off, because the street was rocking, okay? So that was the neighborhood that I had to fight many of girls because it was going down every day. But I was a fighter, and I didn't take no mess from nobody. So That was my history. I was known to be a fighter, but not because I was out there causing problems or trying to fight, just because girls would come on my street and want to fight me because they heard that I knew how to fight. But in the 10th grade, I was doing well in the 10th grade. I won't speak no names, but that in the 10th grade was my first relationship. He lived on the same street as me, and all the girls wanted him, and he had this history too, that he was the man, and he knew how to fight. And so I was intrigued in that. I think that's what made me gravitate to him. But so 10th grade, messing with this guy, and first time having sex, ended up being pregnant in the 10th grade.
10th grade, how old were you?
I was 16 going on 17.
Mm-hmm.
The summer, went through the summer, then I went back to school, trying to stay in school, trying to be pregnant and stay in school, but I use it as an excuse to drop out, And
Hold on 1 second. You said it was your first time having sex?
Yeah, my first time ever having sex.
And you got pregnant?
And I got pregnant the first time, yeah.
Wow.
The next month I didn't start a period, but he knew what he did, because I remember clear as day after it was done and said, he was like, I'm gonna go get you something to eat because I gotta feed my baby.
How, looking back on that now,
how
does that make you feel?
I could say that I don't regret my life. Everything that happened to me was an experience, and I am the person I am today because of it. But if someone was to ask me would I change, what I've been through, I would say no. Looking back on it, I realized that I didn't know what I was doing. I was a kid, You don't think about, at that time in life, you didn't think about the man that you were getting with. It was just somebody that was interested in me, and I liked the way he made me feel, and so, but he wasn't deserving of me, for sure. He wasn't. But me not knowing and not ever talking to my mom about the birds and the bees, I had no clue. I had no clue. Yeah.
So you said you ended up dropping out of school, correct?
I ended up dropping out of school, and I want to say I probably was maybe when I dropped out of school, my mom, when she found out that I was pregnant with him, I didn't no longer live with my mom. She kicked me out. She didn't like him. She told me from the day one when she first met him, she told me he was going to be a woman beater. And I just felt like she didn't like him because he was black, because she always used to encourage me to date Mexican men. And one day I asked her, why don't you date Mexican men? Or why didn't you marry a Mexican man? And she had the nerves to tell me that they were abusive and that they were aggressive. So why would you want me to date a Mexican man, So I just felt like she didn't like him, and she was trying to find any reason not for me to be with him. But she was telling the truth. She knew she could read him right away. So I went to go live with my oldest sister. She took me in while I was pregnant.
How did your siblings feel about you being pregnant?
Well, my baby sister wasn't upset, because unannounced to me, she was pregnant too. She was I was 1 month when I let it come out. She was already going on 6 months.
Wow.
So she was happy,
How old was she?
She was 15. She was 15, and she was already 6 months pregnant. And so, Mom put me out and kept her at the house. And she wanted both of us to get an abortion. And that isn't even in her culture. They don't do that, but she was just so angry.
Yeah.
And so she said some things that were cruel and mean, and I wanted to divorce my dad because of it. And then my dad was mad at me because he felt like I knew about my sister, so that's why I did it, because I was trying to save her, because like I told you, she's my gift for life. And so, I have her back no matter what. But that wasn't the reason. But they thought it was. So I went to go live with my sister for the whole 9 months that I was pregnant. And for the whole 9 months that I was pregnant, I would go to school. My sister would drop me off. She'd come pick me up, or I would walk to the father's house and stay there until my sister came and got me. And one day he was walking me home from school, and there was a lowrider that passed by, and I was looking, just at the car. And he slapped me in my face. That was the first time he hit me. And he told me never to look at another man. And I was so stunned, and just because I was skinny, And he was buff and tall and big, and I had never experienced a man putting his hands on me, nor have I ever experienced men beating on women, you know, because my dad didn't do that. My dad didn't put his hands on my mom. We never really ever heard them argue. Every time we seen them, they were either kissing or talking or dancing. So that was something new to me. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that was the first day he put his hands on me. And from that day forward, it was all the time.
All the time.
All the time.
Wow. And how did you navigate through that relationship for as long as you stayed in it? Like,
for me, I thought that he was so jealous of me, you know, didn't want nobody to talk to me. I mean, I'll tell you the goods and the bad. The good that I got out of that relationship was that I had 3 beautiful sons, and that this man protected me from the streets, and he protected me from drugs, because I couldn't go out. And I also couldn't drink, couldn't smoke, couldn't do none of that. If somebody offered me any type of liquor or passed the weed to me or whatever the case may have been, he would go off. And so I do appreciate him for that, because he did protect me from those things. But on the other side, it was horrible. It was horrible. You know, people don't believe women when they say they stayed for as long as they did because they were scared. Well, I'm one of those women.
How long did you stay?
I stayed for 10 years. For 10 years. I went through abuse for 10 years. I went through this man finding any reason to put his hands on me. If there was a cigarette butt in the front of our driveway, he would beat me because of that, because that meant somebody was in our house, you know. If I went to go get my hair done at the shop, he would wait till I came in and pour a jug of water on my head. I remember one time he hit me so hard that my body print was in the wall. Yeah, so yeah, I went through it. And if he didn't beat me today, he beat me tomorrow. And then you say, how could you stay for something like that when you knew that was going to be the outcome? Crazy. Crazy in love.
What would you say was the final straw for you?
The final straw for me was I was on welfare with him, food stamps, you know, Section 8. And I had to renew my welfare. And it was a hot day. We didn't have air conditioning in our car. And my mom had just bought me a dress for my birthday. And I had to ask permission if I could wear it, because I wasn't allowed to show my body off. And this dress was a large. I was skinny, thin, but I always had curves. So I asked permission, could I wear it? And he gave me permission to wear it. And I went to the welfare office to renew my welfare. He took my sons with him to go to his mom's house, and then he was going to come back and get me in a couple of hours. So I'm waiting outside for him, and there's this young black guy walking in, and I'm praying. I'm already praying to God, like, please, Lord, don't let him say nothing to me. Just let him walk right past me. Please don't say nothing to me. And what does he do? He walks right in front of me and asks me, do you need a ride? I'm like, no, I don't need a ride. My husband's on his way to come pick me up. But when he walks away from me, the dad's car is right there. He gets out that car and he's enraged. Don't ask what happened. Don't ask what he said to me. Don't ask nothing. Just start beating on this young guy, you know. I mean, literally beating him up. I already knew I was next, so I was trying to get into the welfare office. They locked the door on me and that guy. He picked me up like a rag doll, threw me over his shoulder, threw me in the car. That day I knew I was going to die. And then when I seen where we're going to his mom's house. He always beat on me in front of his mom. She never called the police, never did nothing. His brothers never did nothing. They just let this man beat on me. So that day I felt like, I'm dying today. My kids were crying. They don't know what's going on. I'm telling him this guy didn't do nothing wrong. All he did was just ask me, did I need a ride? He don't want to hear it. So as soon as I get out the car, he pulls me out the car to get into his mom's house. As soon as I walk in, he just socks me so hard. I tell you, I was dazed. When I came to, I was outside, screaming to the top of my lungs. I don't know how I got out that house. I don't even know how I got outside, but I was screaming, give me my kids. I had never reacted like that when he beat me. It was always a hush hush. I would stay away if I had a black eye. My family really didn't know what he was doing to me. Nobody really knew what he was doing to me because I didn't ever call the police on him. I protected him in every way. So yeah, this day was different, and I think it spooked him. So he gave me my kids, and I ran for my life.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I ran for my life. I can remember going to, but I can remember going to a phone booth, because at that time if you couldn't afford a cell phone, you were not having a cell phone. But at that time they had phone booths that you could put money into, and you could call your family members, and they were like on, maybe every 3 corners. And I didn't even have money that day, and at that time we had operators, so you could call an operator and have her make an emergency phone call, and they would do it for you. So I just pressed 0, the operator answered. I told her I had an emergency phone call, I need to call my mom, and she called my mom for me, and I had my mom come pick me up. And that was the last day that I stayed in that situation. Yeah. I felt like if I didn't stay away at that time, that the next time would be no next time. He was either going to kill me or I was going to kill him. And then I watched how it was affecting my kids. So I needed to get them out of that situation.
Wow. Now it's your very first relationship.
Yes.
Do you feel like that sent your life on a different path that you would have hoped for? Like, how do you feel like that relationship affected you for the rest of your life, shall I say?
I feel like it affected me in a negative way and in a positive way. The positive way was that I vowed to God. And before I finish this interview, I want to say that I give all glory to God, because I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for Him. So I give all the glory and the honor to Him, and I feel like He was been in my life, all my life, as far as I can remember, okay? So with saying that, I could say that experience for me led me to believe in my head that there could never, ever be another man that would ever put his hands on me like that again. I would kill him first. And I meant that. And I take that to my grave today. I put that in my head, that I would never allow somebody to mistreat me in that sense. And especially, it's never deserving. But there was no reason for it. None whatsoever. And men use the excuse that, oh, I see my older brother beat on his woman, or, oh, I see my dad beat on. You should have been better. You should have been better. And I forgive that person. I forgave him because I need to move on with my life. But I don't forget. I'll never forget. So that would be the negative part that I would say. Well, maybe positive. But I would just say to young women that if they start yelling at an early age on in the relationship and putting fear in you, you need to walk away, because eventually they're going to put their hands on you. And you get conditioned to having them call you out your name or talk badly to you, and you think that's love. That ain't love. That's nothing but control. They're so afraid that you are going to find better than them because they ain't shit, that they will make you feel like you ain't shit. So I'm just letting you know, my advice to young women is, as soon as they start yelling, putting you down, making you feel like you're less than, walk away.
So we get out of that relationship. Take me from where life takes you from there.
So I get out of that relationship. I moved. I stayed with my mom for like 3 weeks because I'm mourning for this man. He's all that I know from the age of 16. Here I am at this point. I'm 26. And he's my first love, my first everything. So I'm mourning for him. I feel like, he died. And so I have to go be with my family so they can support me through this, because I don't know how else to navigate, because this is the first time I've ever experienced heartbreak, or having to walk away from somebody that I truly love. So I go stay with my mom, and my family members, they're awesome. Like I said, our family is full of love. So when you need that support, we're going to give it to you. And I needed them at that time, and they embraced me, and they made sure that I was going to get all the love that I felt like I was missing. And so I'm driving my mom's car one day because my car's broke down, Mind you, every job that I get with this particular person I just left, he either makes me quit. If I start school, he makes me stop school. it was just like he didn't want me to get ahead, because he knew that if I got ahead, that I would see that he wasn't meant for me. I could do better than him. So here I am starting all over again with nothing, not having nothing. And so I'm driving my mom's car, and I'm in Colton. And I got my 2 nieces with me, you know, and I'm 26 years old, and I got 3 kids already, you know. So we're together. My mom's watching my children for me. It's a weekend. We go to this little liquor store, and I see this red Camaro pull up on me, you know. And the guy's like, "Hey, what's up?" You know. And I'm like, I'm just gonna keep driving, because that's how I am. I've never been a person to be like trying to holler at somebody, or I'm gonna keep on driving. But my nieces were upset, because they're 18, 19 years old. So they're like, "Auntie, pull over, pull over." So I pull over. I stay in the car. They get out the car. Well, the driver comes, talks to me. He's, you know, "Get out the car." I'm like, "No, I'm not getting out the car. Get out the car so I can look at you." I said, "No." But anyways, make a long story short, that was my second relationship. I looked at him. He was the total opposite the person that I just left. He was about my height, maybe an inch taller than me, skinny, talked with proper English, dressed in suits. Had his own shit though, had his own apartment, his own car. He had it going on, but I was used to thug niggas, and he was not a thug. And so he was like somebody that I would talk to, but I was not going to be interested in. I was like, he's not my type. But he showed me a different world. And that different world was that he liked me for me, you know. There was a lot of things he taught me. He taught me, you know, that like I said, I was on welfare, food stamps. He didn't want me to be on none of that. He told me one day, he said, "I really like you, and I want you to be my girl." He's like, "But you got to get off of that. I don't want no woman that I'm dealing with on welfare and food stamps." He was like, "I don't care what kind of job you get, just go get a job." So I walked down to the nearest Burger King, fill out an application, and I got a job at Burger King, and he was okay with that. Mm-hmm. You know, that's how I started working. He motivated me to be better. Every other word that came out of my mouth was a cuss word. I was okay with a man calling me nigga. I was okay with a man calling me a motherfucker. I mean, if you heard the conversation between me and my kid's father, you would think he was talking to a guy, but he was talking to me. So, you know, this man came in my world and changed me, and told me I needed to speak differently, that I was beautiful, that I need to talk like that. He was the first man that ever got my nails done, got my hair done, tell me to dress in dresses. He liked the shape of my body. He would let me wear jeans. He never stopped me from wearing what I wanted to wear. I didn't wear makeup because the first person didn't allow me to. I didn't wear my hair down. I had long hair. I didn't wear it down because he didn't allow me to. This was a man that let me shine. He let me blossom at 26 years old. I had never been to a club. He was the first one to introduce me to a club. He was like, "You can go out on Saturdays, I'll go out on Fridays." And just the trust that he had in me was just awesome. Never accused me of no one. He was awesome.
Did you have kids with this guy?
I did. I ended up being pregnant. I think me and him were together for maybe 8 months, and I ended up being pregnant with my 3rd child. And
4th child.
My 4th child, yeah, my 4th child. And life was good. He changed the dynamic of the way that I lived altogether. Lived in nice homes. We had nice furniture, nice cars. I mean, it's good to my children, my boys. Took them in as his own. He loved to cook, so, you know, I love to cook too. I was raised on cooking, you know, at 8 years old. So every other day we either he cook, I cook, you know, or he cook, I prep, you know. But life was good. It was good. He was a entrepreneur. He was a go-getter. He showed me that whatever you wanted, you could get out there and get it. It had to be in your mind. It had to be a want for you, you know. I watched that man evolved into something great, you know. And because of his age and because of my age, we didn't last because of who he was and what he had. There was so many women out there that wanted him. And he knew this. So he was a impulsive cheater. It was always me and him and somebody else, you know. And me being young and naive, because the first relationship I was in, he really wasn't a cheater. He was more focused and possessed with me. So this was new to me, to be with somebody that was, that had women and that could get any woman he wanted, And it took a toll on me, and it took a toll on our relationship. And eventually we ended up separating. I was with him for a long time too.
How long
I was
you
with
guys
him for
together?
13 years.
13 years.
13 years. And I have 3 sons by him also.
So
Now here I am at the age of 36, and I got 6 sons.
wow. 6 sons.
6 sons. Yeah.
How would you explain your motherhood journey? 36, 6 sons at this point.
You know what? I thank God that I had 6 sons, because it made it so much easier for me. I watched my mom raise boys too, and I watched my brothers take advantage of my mom. And I vowed that if I was a mother, that if I was have sons, I wouldn't allow them to take advantage of me. I wanted my sons to be scared of me. I wanted them to look at me like I was the last resort, not the first resort. Do everything you got to do as a man. And then if you can't figure it out, then come to me. And when you come to me, you should feel shame for coming to me, because you know that I got all these children. That's how I thought. And so I was really hard on my sons. My oldest would tell you, half the stuff that I allow my sons to do, the younger boys to do now, he wouldn't have never been able to do. But I stuck to my guns. I did. I think I raised some pretty awesome young men. But my goal was to raise them to be men, knowing that their fathers were absent. And what I mean by absent, I don't mean like not around at all, but what I mean is absent out the home. And here I am fulfilling the home with somebody that is known to be a stepfather. But is he going to accept all my children, or is he going to accept some of my children? Because you have to remember, 6 boys, they all got their own personalities, their own traits. They're going to do it how they want to do it. And here comes a man that has to come in and change the dynamics of how the way we live in, First I had 3 boys, and then, the second set of boys, their father comes in and he takes these 3 boys underneath his wing and try to teach them the best way he knows how. And now I got these 3 boys, another set of 3 boys. Now I got 6 boys, and his last words to me was, ain't nobody going to accept you with 6 sons. I believe that. I believe that. And so it took me longer to find somebody this last time.
During the time of being single, how did you, single parent household, 6 boys in the home, how did you survive? How did you make ends meet?
I struggled. I really did. But my sons were brought up the way I was brought up. They knew that if there was only this much milk in the container, that was for the babies, not for them. They knew if they had to sacrifice their meal, they were going to sacrifice their meal for their little brothers to eat. That's how I was raised. And so I raised my children with the same values and morals, and it worked for me. And because I had 6 sons, I needed to really teach the first 3 on how I thought, what was my thinking process, how I ran my household. And from there, they taught the younger 3 boys how they should run the household and how they were supposed to do things. My oldest son, I give praise to him. He was like a father in the house, and he was a father figure. When I say that he was meant to be the oldest child, he really truly was. There was days where I had to stay over at work, and I would call him and let him know, and he'd be like, don't worry, Mom, I'm gonna cook for them. I'm gonna make sure their homework is done. I never came home to a dirty house. I had 6 boys, and my sons, they were all, fed. Their homework was done. My house was clean. They were bathed. So it just made it easier. But I give that glory to my older boys. They helped me raise my children, and through them we were able to, get through and get by.
What type of job did you work?
I had a couple of jobs from being at Burger King was the first job, and then I went to Santa Fe Railroad, and that was a little bit more money and a different type of job. And then from there I went to Beaver Medical Clinic, cleaning, because that's what my second father did. He cleaned buildings and restaurants and stuff like that. So I learned that field, and then from there I got a warehouse job. I was working at a warehouse.
Warehouse? You working overnight shifts?
I've always worked overnight shifts because it helped me raise my children. I didn't need a babysitter, because I get home in the morning, and I could deal with them, get them to school, they come home, I'm there. So by the time I got ready to go to work, they were already in bed. So I didn't ever need a babysitter or somebody to keep an eye on my children because the way that I worked, it helped me through that. So I worked from 2 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock in the morning, every day.
I know just from talking to you, how do you feel you not being in the homes at night affected your boys? Like, how do you feel not having a parent at late hours of the night?
What I will say is that being as young as I was, from being a mother at 17, at this point 26, in my 30s, I was selfish. If I was unhappy with that man being in my life, if we've split up, I never thought about my children. Never thought that maybe that might harm them or make them, because they love their father, And regardless of whatever me and him was going through, they still had to navigate to where now this man is no longer in their life, And here I am bringing another person in and saying, hey, here he is. You gotta love him, Not knowing how they felt about the situation. So, I had to grow up out of that and realize that their opinion counts. It really does. And the way that they feel counts, And so leaving my children at night, I really didn't take too much thought in it because I just felt like they know that I'm at work and that I'm working. And I put a lot of responsibility on my oldest son, like he was supposed to watch them even through the night, and not realizing that my sons were probably doing the most. I had no clue. Because when I got home from work, they were in bed. We had good days, so I never thought about it. Never even second guessed my mind that there was not a parent in the home and that they could be running wild. I just didn't think that way about my children. I was young and naive, honestly.
Yeah. I think you had a lot on your plate. I think that it's hard trying to be a good mother, good friend, a good sister, while taking head of the household, while trying to work on you at the same time. I don't feel like you ever got a chance to figure out who Monique was. So I think you're saying like you're selfish and all these things. I think that you were a trying human being, Monique, and that
I never
you
got
did
a chance to love me.
the best you could do with the cards you were dealt with. And I think that it's honestly a beautiful story, and I don't think you were selfish at all in it. I think you were trying to make things work.
I was trying to figure it out. Here I have this big family and I'm young and I'm by myself, I was left to do it by myself, and not left because I was a bad person, because I wasn't. I was so good to these men. Left because they just, in their mind, maybe they felt like they were going to find better, do better. I don't know what the case was, but it was like kick her to the curb, and so for me to have to pick myself up and brush my knees off, but still love on my children the way I've always loved on them, and not let them be affected by what I'm being affected by, not taking it out on them, not making them feel miserable or bad for being here because things didn't work out, my shit didn't work out, and so I don't ever think I ever loved me the way I should have. Here I am 17 with child, never got a chance to look at my body and say, hey, I'm beautiful. Now I got this big stomach, and because of this man being so selfish, he never allowed me to wear clothes that extent, to show the extent of my body, because he knew that I was beautiful, but I didn't, and then getting with somebody that, okay, allow me to be that person and say, hey, you are beautiful and I love the way you look, it was a teeter-totter, like, what do you do, how do you navigate being this way and now you're being this way, so I never looked at myself as being beautiful or fine. I just looked at myself as I'm pretty, I'm pretty. And I remember my dad used to tell me all the time, Nikki, you could be a model, and I used to just say, yeah, right, because I just didn't feel like that. So here I am with 6 kids by myself, having to start all over again. Having my oldest children help me through and navigate through. And I don't know if I'm coming or going, to be honest with you. I'm just, God has put good people in my life, and at that time I had a friend named Desiree, and she was younger than me. But I don't know, for some reason this little young girl just navigated to me. She was drawn to me, and I think because I love people, and I love people hard, and I don't pass judgment, and if you come around me, you're gonna get a hug, you're gonna get some love some way or another. I'm gonna make you feel like you are somebody. So I think that's what I did for her, and her family knew it, and so they loved me too. And she was just a great person. I mean, young woman, got me a cell phone so I could have a cell phone, would come and pick me up, take my kids, go swimming at her house. I mean, she made that position, that transition that I was going through easier, that I was able to navigate through it because I had somebody that was, caring for me and my children, and just being there for me, and so I always appreciate that young lady. I haven't talked to her in years, but she's going to always have a place in my heart, her and her family. So they helped me get through that.
So where are you living at now?
I'm on 2nd Street. At this time,
what city?
Rialto, California. I'm on 2nd Street in Rialto, California.
How is the environment in Rialto, California at this time?
Well, I could truly say that this street that I moved on in Rialto, 2nd Street, the part that I lived in, it was like 2 blocks down. It was gangster ghetto, but the 2 blocks ahead where I lived at, it was mellow and nice, so not thinking about what environment am I putting my children in, and I'm thinking, okay, well, we live down the street, these are boys, they're gonna venture out eventually, but me not, thinking like that. I was like, okay, we got a nice house, we live on 2nd Street, that's cool, let's live, so. Yeah, so I'm living on 2nd Street. At this time, my sons are in high school. Both the 2 oldest boys are in high school, and I got one that's in middle school, and then my younger boys are in junior high. And so we're living. And so my 3rd relationship is well, before I go to my 3rd relationship, I could truly tell you, in my 2nd relationship, that guy I told you that I was so interested in high school, I finally got him. He was my friend, okay? And we've been knowing each other since elementary. So at the end of the day, we just remained friends. We've been friends for forever. The cards didn't play out for us to be in a relationship or to be that close to one another, but the love that we have for one another, it'll never go away. So I want to state that. So now here I am at this warehouse. I'm working at this warehouse. I'm making pretty good, at least I think I'm making pretty good money. I think I'm making $9.25 at that time, and at that time that was pretty good money, so I'm able to survive. We got this house in Rialto, and me and the second father, we're no longer together, and the breaking point for me with that was he left me, he moved out, and he told me he was living with some guys that he was roommating with, and he just accidentally called my phone and left a message on my phone, and the message was him talking to another man about his baby mama, which was me, and the girl that he's living with, that he was living with at that time. And pretty much, it broke my heart, because this whole time I'm thinking that we're going to get back together again, and he's lying. He's living with the woman, had me thinking he's living with some roommates, some guys. And so for me, I said, if a man ever leaves me and he moves in with another woman, that means he don't want me. I can't go back to that. So that was a draw for me and him. I never went back. I wasn't in. So now here I'm at this warehouse working, and I'm heartbroken, right? I'm navigating through it, going to work every day, coming home, wanting to crawl underneath my bed, because that's how heartbroken I am, because I don't know what I did to deserve this. But I end up meeting my 3rd person at the warehouse where I worked. You know, he would flirt with me, you know, make little comments. And at that time, I was like, he's so ugly. That nigga was ugly. I was like, why the fuck is he trying to talk to me? But anyways, make a long story short, I ended up hurting my arm, and so they put me on limited duty. And on limited duty, I got the opportunity to talk to him when there wasn't not a lot of people, you know, because he would work extra hours. And so he just, you know, talking to me, telling me I should come over to his apartment. And in my mind, I'm like, yeah, right, you know. But it was true. He had his own place, you know. He had it going on, you know. And I realized that he was a good person, that it wasn't about his looks. He was awesome, you know. And I think he got me by loving on my children. Here I am, a woman with 6 kids, you know. And like I told you, the second one told me, ain't no man gonna want you with 6 kids. And I didn't sugarcoat it. I told this man the raw truth. I told him, I said, hey, I have 6 sons. He thought that was funny. It's like, you are lying. I said, no, I'm telling the truth, you know. And from that day forward, I told my sons play football. He would come show up at games. They didn't know it. He'd be sitting up at the top watching the game, you know, not letting them know that this guy, because I didn't think my sons was ready for that yet, you know. So, yeah, so about a year after me and the second person split up, I ended up, you know, being friends with my third person. Mm-hmm. And that's how it started. He had no sons, and so my boys he was intrigued in, plus they were playing football. That's what he loved. And so yeah, that's how it came up to play. Yeah. And my life got even better with him. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In what ways?
With the first person, no friends could come over to our house. He didn't get down like that. Mm-hmm. You're not coming to his house. You're not gonna know where he lives. None of that. You know. Second person, a little bit open. Have his friends come to the house even when he wasn't there. That was kind of weird to me, but he always told me he trusted me, and so I, you know, take pride in that. And third person, he brought some order into our house. It wasn't a revolving door. You know, we went to bed at a certain time. The door was locked. If you wasn't in the house by that time, you was gonna be locked out. Ain't nobody coming over to the house just running and ripping it. You know, so it wasn't none of that. So he brought kind of order and, you know, some control into my house, and just as far as the way we lived, you know. So I appreciate that. He also was a go-getter too, and he also, you know, liked to have nice things, you know. He was electronic buff, you know. Everything he has to be the best in electronics. So it was nice, but I've never been a materialistic person. So, you know, even though we had these nice things, it wasn't a hoorah for me, like, oh my God, we got, you know. It was just, okay, that's what he likes, you know. I'm humble, so, you know, if we have a TV that's working, hey, until it stops working, we can get another one. But that wasn't him. He, you know, if there was a bigger and better something, he was going to go get it. And so I dated him for a year, and then he asked me for my hand in marriage. And I wanted marriage at that time, you know, so I was excited. And he loved my kids. You know, I had 6 boys. He appreciated them. He took them in underneath his wings. And so, yeah, I feel like he was the perfect guy, you know.
So first marriage.
My first marriage, yep. I was 37.
37. How'd that feel for you as a woman?
It felt good because in my mind I didn't think I was worthy for marriage, or that somebody would love me that deep to want to keep me as a woman, you know, to marry me. But I always longed to be married. And so, yeah, it was a privilege. It really was. I felt like that was one of the top best things that could have ever happened to me. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it was something that my kids could see, my sons could see. And this man, he worked. He didn't smoke weed. He didn't drink. You know, he was all about making his money. And he had a gang of kids, you know, and that should have been a red flag for me, but it wasn't, because I had a gang of kids. So I was like, okay, we're a match made in heaven. That's perfect, you know. But I never looked at it as a negative for him, you know. I just like, okay, well, he done been through some things, I done been through some things, you know, but we're gonna make this work. And so we did. We ended up getting married.
And how were things early on in marriage?
They were great. They were great. I thought the world of him, you know. He was like a ray of sunshine for my life. And he always seemed to make things better, you know, no matter what. Now, he'll tell the story that we ate chicken for months, but we had chicken in different ways. So, you know, but we made it work, you know. Christmas was good. Everything was good. We got along great. We were so compatible and not compatible, if you understand what I'm saying. Like the things that he loved, I intrigued myself through that and got involved with it because I knew he loved those things. And so I did it with him, you know, and the same thing with me, you know. I'm a party animal. I like to have people around and company and stuff like that. And he allowed me to be who I was, you know, and so I do appreciate him for that. He never tried to change me. Yeah, so.
Where were you guys? You guys are still living on 2nd Street at this time?
At this time, well, we got married on 2nd Street, but we moved like maybe 2 months after we got married, and we were living on Casmalia in Rialto, California at this time, yeah. And so mind you, you know, I am 5 years older than him. And so, you know, he's still a baby, you know, thinking about it, you know, if you're in your 30s, you know, that's young, you know, so, and here he is taking on a woman with 6 kids that's older than him, and, you know, and then he's, you know, still out there doing his thing, you know, being that young man that he is, but being mature and trying to be an adult, you know, so we're trying to navigate through, you know, everything that we're going through. So with me, I take pride in who I'm with. I've never been a street person. I've never been out there trying to mess with multiple men. If I'm with you, I'm with you. If I'm rocking with you, I'm rocking with you. We're doing this, you know. And I'm the type of person that likes to be kept. So long-term relationships is my thing. I don't know what it is to be single. I've never lived that life. So, you know, that was a fear for me. I don't want to be single. I want to be with somebody that I can come home to. I want to be able to cater to a man. I want to be able to feel like I'm loved by somebody. So, you know, this is the reason why I got into relationships, because this is who I am. So being with him was, I see my life getting better, you know.
So you guys moved to Casmalia. Can you take me through, how was life in Casmalia?
Okay,
take me through
so,
some of the stories that you might have experienced, some things you might have went through.
Yeah, on Casmalia.
Still Rialto, correct?
Yeah, still Rialto, but this is when I actually realized that my son is into gangs, my second son. And I'm not knowing how deep he is. I'm just really just starting to learn, because I had no clue. He's my baby at home. He's just himself at home. He's not talking no type of language. He's not acting no type of way. He's just my son, so I have no clue. And then I'm getting people calling to my house asking for, you know, his street name, which is TC. And I don't know who TC is. So I'm like, you guys got the wrong number. I'm hanging up. And then they're calling back to, can I talk to her? Is Randy there? And I'm like, yeah, Randy's here. Still don't have a clue on what's going on, right? And so, yeah, that was the first time that I started experiencing that this guy was into gangs, and that he was from a gang, and that he was living that street life. I had no clue. He was handsome. He always dressed well, always had money. But for the life of me, I didn't ever, you know, suspect anything or question him about anything. I knew he had a lot of women, so I know how women are, you know. We easy to buy somebody something to wear or give them money. That's just what we do, right? We cater, you know. That's a part of our mechanism, you know. We care that deep. So I'm thinking like, dang, he got these girls doing things for him, you know. And one day I'm at work and I get a phone call that, no, I take that back. It's not, I don't get a phone call, not this time. This is the first time that our house got shot at. I wake up out of my sleep to hearing gunshots. And they sound like they were coming out of my house, and it woke me up out of my sleep. And I'm coming through the hallway, because remember, it clear as day, coming through the hallway, and it's like ringing, you know. And so I open up the door and I see my son in the front yard with a gun in his hand, shooting at somebody and crying at the same time. Me coming from the streets and knowing what I know that the neighbors are going to call the police. I got to get my son away from the house. So at that time, Ryan was driving. So I had Ryan drive his brother away from the house.
Ryan's your third son?
Ryan's my third. No, he's my third son.
Yeah.
and Randy's the second son. And so I have Ryan drive him away from the house. Before we drive him away from the house, we're picking up all the bullet shells in the yard. We'll make sure that there's no bullet shells in the yard and he's out of there, right? And so at this time I have my husband's, he has his nephew living with us. We got him out of foster care. So he's living with us at that time too. So everybody's leaving the house. They gotta go, you know. Just my younger boys are there with me and myself, you know. And at this time, I'm already have a child. I have a little girl by my husband. And so the police end up showing up at our house and they want to talk to me. And I go out there, I tell them I don't know nothing about it. I'm just getting off of work, I'm waking up. Well, did you hear gunshots? I said, I don't know what that was. I was dreaming. I played it off like that. They went on about their way. We got through that episode. Mm-hmm. You know, they was in the yard trying to kick the grass, trying to find bullets, you know, shells, because the neighbors told them that the shooting came from my house. But, you know, I'm gangster like that.
Yeah.
So nothing went down with that, you know. And
how did that feel to...
It was scary.
It was like the first moment you seen that it was your son was in deep?
I realized that my son was in deep and that he had a lot going on. And I had no clue, because if I'd have known, I probably wouldn't have kept us in Rialto, you know. I probably would have moved somewhere else, but me not knowing, I'm thinking I'm moving to the country club, you know, like this is a better spot for us, you know, but not knowing, not really knowing what he was into until at that time, you know. And at that time, he was in his 11th year of high school and not making it, you know, not doing good, not going to school and having to go to Meyer. And,
so your son was, you said he was in 11th grade?
Yeah.
So he's around 16, 17.
16, 17, almost 17, because he was a little bit earlier in school than my oldest boy. So, you know, he graduated at 17. So, yeah, in 11th grade, and just doing the most, doing the most. And so I could say truly at that house, I think our house got shot up maybe 2 times that time, and then 3 times. My house got shot up 3 times that time. And then another time when him and his brother was coming, driving his brother's car. They're sitting in there and people drove by and shot at him. At that time, my oldest son got shot, a couple of his friends. And
how was that night? Can you take us through it?
That was crazy. That night was crazy. Unfortunately, I wasn't there. I think I was at work. Yeah, so I came home to that chaos, you know. And yeah, I knew.
You said did Randy get shot, or?
No, my son Ronald, the oldest boy, he got shot. He got shot in the leg. And Randy didn't get shot, but Randy knew who it was, and Randy was really distraught over it, and he wanted to hurt somebody behind it, you know. And then we realized that my son had a hit out on his head. They wanted to kill him. They wanted to kill him, you know. And it was becoming deeper than what I suspected as a mom, you know. And my husband knows that life, so he knew it all too well, and he knew that I would tell him I didn't want Randy to carry a gun, and he was like, better for him to have a gun on him than not to have one, you know. And for me, that was scary as a mom, because now I'm thinking, like, any day now I could get a phone call, my son won't be here, you know, because of what he's going through. And I had no clue. I didn't live that life.
Yeah. How long did you stay in Rialto before?
My sons, we lived in Rialto damn near all their lives. You know, that's where I wanted to be. I liked Rialto. When I moved to San Bernardino, that was on a humbug. I was out there for a couple of years, and then I moved right back to Rialto. So Rialto was where we lived, where they were born and raised, and that was how it went, you know. So
what was the final straw for you?
The final straw for me was the house got shot up a 3rd time. And this time, they were aiming to kill. They didn't just try to shoot at him or a car. They shot at the house. They shot in my younger boy's room. They shot in the living room. They were trying to kill somebody at that time, you know. And at that time, like I said, my sons, if they weren't in the room with my husband while he was playing his video game, they would have been in their rooms in the bed sleep. A tragedy would have occurred. You know, unfortunately, they weren't in their room, and at that time, I knew that it was time that we had to go. We had to leave that neighborhood because it was only going to get worse. At that time, my third son was in his last year of high school. It had just begun, so I just had to let him know, like, look, we got to go, you know, but you could stay going to that school, but we just have to, you know, move. So we ended up moving to Fontana. We ended up moving to Fontana, and I didn't take my second son with me. I just told him he had to figure it out because he was putting, you know, his little brothers in jeopardy, and I felt horrible as a mom doing that to him, you know. And in a lot of ways, I regret that because I took time away from me and him to be together and love on one another. And I feel like I made him feel like he wasn't worthy, or that he was a bad guy, and he wasn't. You know, he wasn't a bad guy. He just chose the wrong way of living, but I should have loved him where he was at, you know, and not expecting any more, any less, you know, hoping that he could come out of that, you know. So, yeah, I kind of like put him in the streets at that time, you know. He was living from place to place. He had nowhere to live, and I didn't want him to live with me, but eventually once we got to Fontana, I let him come back home because that's my baby, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And how was Fontana? How was living there?
I'm dealing with a black woman, you know. This is her house, she owns it, and you know, I'm thinking like, okay, yeah, this is going to be nice, this is in a good area, it's nice for my kids, you know, not knowing the whole time this woman is playing me. She took all my deposit money, all my rent money. The next month she gives me a 30-day notice to get out. I mean, 1 month. You know, it was crazy, you know. So we ended up staying there for 2 months because I had 30 days to get out. So just in those 2 months, it was crazy. It was just crazy. This woman would drive by my house, and I mean, she would come in the house and clean the microwave. I mean, she was just doing weirdo stuff. But yeah, so I experienced that where somebody took all my money and told me I had to go. And at that particular moment in time, well, let me just go back. From going through that with my son, I could already see that it was putting a hardship on my marriage with my husband. He had made some comments like, you know, he was going to school, supposed to be going to school for law enforcement, and this was going to put a damper on his career. And, you know, so here I was feeling like I was going to have to choose between my husband and my son, you know. And so when I decided to move, it was because I knew I had to, you know, get him away from there and get my children away from there. But I also was trying to make it better for my husband too, you know. So I was trying to satisfy everybody in this situation. When I moved to Fontana, my husband, the day of moving, he didn't help. He didn't help Ryan at the time. Ryan was he's my third child. Randy was out doing what he was doing. Ronald lived in LA. He didn't help us move. It was Ronald and my younger boys that stacked this truck up, that moved. He drove me. He moved me to this house, and he became the man. He became the man, doing things at a young age that he shouldn't have had to do because, you know, the man in my life was just basically saying he wanted no more parts of it. So when I moved to Fontana, was the first time that I knew that me and my husband probably were going to separate. We weren't going to be together. So we moved into that house by ourselves, you know, and then eventually the end of that month, he came to stay, and then that's when the woman gave me the 30-day notice to quit. So we weren't even in that house for more than 2 months. And when I moved out of that house, again, Ryan had to move me out. There was nobody to help him move me. So he moved me into my niece's house, which was in Rialto, and moved all my stuff into her garage. And that was the first time in my life that I had to split my family up. I had 6 boys, and I kept the younger boys with me. Well, I take that back. I had 7 children at that time because I had Puka too. So Adrian and Puka stayed with me at my niece's house. Randy was in the streets. And then Ryan, Brandon, and Dorian went to go live with my oldest son. So yeah, we were divided. And then my husband was, who knows where he was living, you know. He told me he was living out in LA with his friend because he lived out in LA at the time. So yeah, my whole family was divided. That was the first time in my life that I felt like I was homeless. And I didn't know what was going on. I was just like, I'm going through so much at this moment. You know, just, I couldn't believe what I was going through. So yeah, I went through that. I put my kids through that.
Is that hard for you?
It is hard for me when I think about it. It was hard for them, you know. But here I am, this mom, just trying to figure it out, trying to navigate through this situation that, where did it even come from, you know? It wasn't like I didn't have a job, you know. It wasn't like I didn't try to find a better place for us to live, but all that happened at once, you know. So it was just, it was devastating. It was devastating for me. It was devastating for my kids, you know. I got to see them on weekends, and they're all going to different schools and live in different places. Brandon and Dorian went to school in San Bernardino. Ryan stayed at Carter. He had a car. Adrian is going to school in Rialto, and then I'm going to Valley College. I stayed in school. I could have let that deter me to get me out of school, but I was determined to stay in school because I knew that God had his hand in this situation right here, because I just knew it. I just felt it. And he was like, just stay strong, stay in school. Don't use that as an excuse to drop out, because life feels like it's falling around all around you, you know. And it was falling. So yeah, so we lived there. I lived with my niece for 2 months. She allowed me to live rent-free. I was able to save money up and find us another place. And so in my mind, I was like, I'm getting out of Rialto. I'm getting out of this area. I'm gonna give my kids a better life. Take them to Redlands, because I heard that Redlands was the Beverly Hills of San Bernardino, that it was good living out there, there wasn't a lot of crime, and I just wanted to give my kids a better life. And I'm in school. I'm going to school to be a psych tech, and I'm staying focused, and this is how I'm thinking. I'm thinking like I'm finna give my boys and my daughter a better life. So yeah, that's what I went through at that moment in time. And so here I am in school. I find me a house in Rialto.
Redlands.
In Redlands. I find me a house in Redlands. Ryan, again, this is the third trip that he has to make to pack my stuff up and drive this truck to, you know, now a place that we're calling home. And so his little brother is helping him, you know, and so we get this house. And unfortunately, they're all in school, and it's almost at the end of the school year. So they got to finish school out. So they don't get to come home right away. They get to come home on the weekends, and they got to finish school out where they're at. So they have to stay. So Dorian and Brandon staying with Ron until school is done. Adrian staying with Arlene until school is done, you know, and Ryan's in his last year of high school. And before I got this house, Ryan had got a letter that they wanted proof of address because return mail was coming back. And I didn't have proof of address at that time, so we had to go to the school and sign paperwork stating that he was homeless. You know how embarrassing that was? And for him, you know, it was like, he went through so much with me at that time. When I think about him and his resilience, I'm so thankful that I had him around at that time to just help me through and navigate through what I was going through, because the two older boys, you know, Randy was going through what he was going through. Ronald was in his relationship, you know, trying to make things happen for him. And so now it's Ryan's turn, you know, and he got to step up and be the man for his siblings and his mom. And he did that, you know. So he moves me out of Arlene's garage, moves me into this house. He's driving to school every day. Eventually Brandon and Dorian get to come home, and then eventually Adrian gets to come home, and now I got all my children at home. So this summer was a good summer because now I got all my kids at home with me. But yet my husband didn't come home. He stayed gone for 2 years. And I finished school, ended up getting a job at Kalinga. That was my first job, which is up north. And he decided that he was going to help me through that, you know. So Randy's at the house watching my kids, taking care of Puka, and my husband is bringing food to the house and checking in on them every now and then, but still not in the household yet, And this is after 2 years of separation, And here I am in Kalinga, going to work and then coming home on the weekends and crying, boo-hooing every time I got to go back. Because now I'm separated from my children. I get all my children back in the home with me, and now I get this job, and now I got to leave them again, And that was hard for me. That was the first time I ever had separation anxiety, because like I said, my mother and father, till death did us part. But for me to walk away from my kids over a job, it was the hardest thing for me. But I knew in the back of my head that I needed this job. That way, if any man ever left me again, I would not struggle. That my life would still be the same if they were there or not there. So I did what I had to do. And I just stuck in there for the fight, And I went to Kalinga and I prayed to God, I stepped out on faith. I was like, Lord, okay, you said step out on faith and trust and believe in you. So I did that. And in return, He made His promise to me. He brought me back in 3 months. I was only out there for 3 months. There's people that have been out there for years that can't get a job out here. And God brought me back in 3 months. So I was very thankful. I ended up getting a job at Metro in Norwalk. So I'm 45 minutes away from home now. So I could go back and forth. So a blessing.
Wow. Seems like it for you has just been obstacle after obstacle.
It has.
But I guess to me, it's you remain steadfast. You remain. The plan was the plan, and I feel like that's the reason why you have overcome all that, because you never gave up. And it's always success is truly on the other side of failure.
Yes, it is. And the plan was the plan. I never gave up because I knew that I had my motivation was my children. I had to do this for my children. I couldn't see myself going backwards. They always say when you fall down, you're supposed to get back up, but you're supposed to be 10 feet ahead. So that way you never go back to where you already been. And so that was a motto of mine. If I'm going to fall down, when I get back up, I got to do better. I got to be better. I got to think better. So for me, it was like, okay, this is the plan, and I got to stick to the plan, because this is what I prayed for, this is what I asked for, and I'm doing it. I can't stop now. The hardest thing is to start something and to finish something, But if you could start it and you could finish it, you won. Regardless of the outcome, you won. That is history behind me, that I could say, hey, I did that, So during all my obstacles, I could truly say, yeah, that was probably the hardest moment for me, which I thought was the hardest moment in my life.
At that point.
Yeah, at that point, So I'll make it go fast. My husband ends up coming back, I got this good job. I started working in 2012. Forwarding to 2013. 12, I'm doing it. I've been there for a year, I'm trying to make money, trying to have things, and I lose my son. He loses his life, and
can you take us through that night?
I can. Let me just forward it to the 2012. So I'm at Kalinga, and I get a phone call from my brother, and my mom had a heart attack. And now, mind you, I'm on my way driving home. I'm driving home by myself, and it's a 5-hour drive. I'm coming home on the weekend. My brother, hey, I tried to call you earlier. Well, I can't have my phone on me. I just calling you to let you know Mom had a heart attack. I'm like, okay, bro. Well, what hospital is she at? I'm on my way. He was like, no, sis, she had a heart attack. Okay, what hospital is she at? Mom didn't make it. That's how I was told my mom didn't make it. Here I am driving home to my kids, and that was that was so painful, because I had promised my mom that when I got this job, I was going to get a house that was going to accommodate her, and for her just to wait on me, and she couldn't wait on me. No. She couldn't wait on me, but anyway, so coming home, I had to pull over and gather my thoughts together, because I couldn't drive no more. And I'm in the middle of nowhere, And I powered through. I came on home, I called up to the hospital to see if I could go see my mom. And at that time, she was already in the morgue, so there was no way we could see her, And
The last time I see my mom was in August of 2000, and it was August. She lost her life in September. No, she lost her life in August. August 17th, she lost her life. So it was in July. I see my mom just a month prior to that, on the day that I came home, and she was in a old people home. You know, that's where she wanted to be, and she's act like she was so happy being there. And so that's why I told her, I'm gonna get a house, I'm gonna get you out of here, so just wait on me. You know, I'm putting things into play, my credit is looking good, I'm gonna buy a home, and I'm coming to get you, Mom. She was like, okay. And she was so proud of me. She was always telling people, my daughter's a nurse, you know. And the day I remember clear as day, me leaving her, me and my sister, and she was telling me how happy she was that day, and she watched me and my sister walk into the sunset. And I remember her telling me that she just wanted to make sure that I was happy and that my sister was happy, and she loved my husband. She told me all the time, she was like, you met a good person. He's a good man, Mija, you know. And that was the last time I spoke to my mom, and then, you know, finding out that she passed away. And so I had to navigate through that. You know, here it is, August 17th. This is her memorial, her 1-year memorial. And then, you know, to find out I lose my son September 27th, a month later. That was hard. Again, now I'm at Metro in Rialto. We're getting ready to have a baby shower for Ron and Shannon, because she's getting ready to have a baby, you know. And I'm at home. It's a Friday. I'm prepping, you know, prepping my food so I don't have to work real hard, decorate the backyard. That way I don't have to do it tomorrow, you know. Just trying to be ahead of myself, you know. It's me and Puka at the house. My 2 sons that are in high school at this time, Dorian and Brandon, they're having football games out in, I think, Palm Springs. Adrian's in elementary, but the friend that he has, his brother plays on the same team as Brandon and Dorian, so his family's going to Palm Springs, so they're taking Adrian with them, you know. And my husband is having a homecoming at Cajon High School, so he's going to that. So I got the house to myself. Ryan is away in college, you know, so I'm at home. Me and Puka are there by ourselves, you know, having a good time, you know. She's little, she's almost, I want to say she's 5, and want to watch cartoons, bathe her, put the cartoons on for her, go get in the shower. She falls asleep, I'm happy. I'm like, yes, because I want to watch me a good ass movie, right? Not knowing, not feeling nothing. You know how people say, oh, I had this weird feeling. I didn't have no weird feeling. I felt nothing but joy and love that day, honestly. I even talked to Randy that day prior to me getting into the shower. He was like, Mom, you buck dialed me. I said, I didn't know. Did I? He was like, yeah, you did. He was like, I thought a patient was beating you up or something. I said, boy, you're so stupid. And he was like, you on your way home? And I said, I'm already home. He was like, okay, I'm going to come over there and visit with you. He was like, by the way, I got my insurance money and my car note money, because I would pay his insurance and his car note for him. He just gave me the money. You know, so I'm like, okay, cool. Before I got off the phone with him, I said, hey, your baby mama said that, you know, Randy's car seat is too small for her and she needs new clothes. He was like, okay, I got it. She gonna be here, Mom? I said, yeah, she's gonna be here tomorrow. So that was the end of our conversation, you know. That was the last time I spoke to my son. Received a phone call from my husband, asked me, am I standing or sitting? You know, I wasn't answering my phone because my phone was dead. He was like, you know, I've been trying to call you. I'm like, well, my phone was dead. He tells me to sit down. That's odd and weird. So I was like, sit down for what? And he's like, I got something I gotta tell you. And I'm like, okay. And he says, Randy got shot today. I lost it. I started yelling and screaming. And he's telling me to calm down because we don't know where Randy got shot at. But for me, I already knew. As soon as he said it, I already knew my son was dead. I just knew it. So before I got a job working for the state, I did janitorial service at Loma Linda University, and I worked in the ER room. And so I know their protocol, I know what they do, I know everything about that hospital. I know that if somebody gets shot, stabbed, or hurt real bad, that you have to come in with ID. You have to show some proof of address that you are who you say you are and they are who you say they are, because they don't know if you're coming to hurt them or not. They're not going to let you in the back. So I knew I had to find all that information for Randy to show that he lived in my home with me, you know. So I got bills and stuff like that. My husband told me that, you know, to wait on him. He was coming to pick me up. I couldn't wait on him. It seemed like forever. I went to my next door neighbors, asked them could they watch my daughter. I got in my car and I drove to Loma Linda University, because I knew that if it was a life-threatening situation, that would be the hospital that they would take him to, because, you know, they got good doctors there. And so I went up and presented my information that I was his mom, and at that hospital, if a person is wounded bad but are surviving, they don't really move them out of the emergency room. You could go see them in the emergency room, you know, they will take you back there to the bed. But if that person has expired, they take you to the family room. And so when they walked me back, they took me to the family room. I'm there by myself. I'm numb because I don't even know what to do, you know. I'm waiting for the doctors to come in and talk to me, but I'm in this room, and the second person that shows up is my oldest son, Ronald, and he lives way in Apple Valley, but he shows up. And so I'm in shock, like, how does he know, you know? Before I knew it, my whole entire family was there. My husband was there. We're all in this waiting room, and the doctor comes in and he kneels down in front of me and he tells me that my son fought for his life for a whole hour before he expired, but there was nothing that they could do for him, that he was shot in the torso. I don't know what the torso is. I'm thinking that the torso was from the neck to the chest, which it is, you know, but they don't express to you that the torso also means the head too, you know. So I'm not knowing, so I'm begging them to let me go back there, just let him see that I'm here and that I'm here for him, and they won't let me go back because they're saying that this is a homicide. And I'm just telling them to let me go back because I want my son to know that I'm here and that he's going to be okay even though he's not here no more. I just want him to know that I tried. I'm trying to get to him. They wouldn't let me. And I just told them, let me just see him. They wouldn't let me see him. So, you know, I'm acting a fool. And my husband has to pull me to the side and tell me, look, he got shot in the torso. And I'm like, okay, I understand that. He's like, no, you don't understand. He got shot in the head. And you don't know where they shot him at. It's like, he's beautiful. Just what you think. You always say he's a beautiful man. You don't know where he got shot at. Do you want to go see him? Don't you want to just remember him as being a beautiful man? And I had to relax and say, yeah, I didn't want to see where he got shot at because I didn't know. I didn't know if he got shot in the face. You know where. I just know that he got shot in the head. So I left there not ever being able to say goodbye. And that haunted me. That haunted me for almost 2 years. I would relive that. I didn't get a chance to hold his hand. I didn't tell him he was going to be okay. I could have changed it. I thought I could change the situation if he would have just came home that day. If, you know, everything you could think of went through my head, how I could have stopped that from happening. But there was no way I could have stopped that from happening. And if I was meant to be there, I would have been, you know, and I had to realize that. And yeah, that was here I'm thinking I'm moving to Redlands to save my family, and they still get my son, you know. So it seemed like it just defeated the whole purpose, you know. And then here I'm thinking he lost his life in Rialto. Come to find out he lost his life in San Bernardino. San Bernardino? I didn't even take my kids to San Bernardino. They know nothing about San Bernardino. That's driving through San Bernardino, not stopping it and being somewhere in San Bernardino. All they knew was that we drove through San Bernardino, you know. So that was a shocker for me too, you know. And that was something to learn how to live with. I would say you never get over losing a child. You know, even when I see all 6 of my kids together, I always know that there's one missing and that he would be here celebrating just like we are, you know. So even though it's a good moment, it's always not so good for me. I have to gather myself together and say, okay, go out here and have a good time. But knowing in my heart that one of my children are not here, you know, that took a part of me that I can never get back. There's nothing that can take that void away from me. And, you know, I don't wish it on nobody. And I'm not the only woman that has lost a child, you know, but at that moment you feel like it. But there's so many women that have lost children. And, you know, I pray for them because I know that hurt. I know that feeling. I wouldn't wish it on no one. So, yeah, you know, you learn to live with it, you know, and then you can grieve. But I always say grieve, pick yourself up, because you still gotta live, you know. So I'm living through that tragedy.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't wish that on anybody. And it's a really powerful, deep story.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a break.
All right, let's do that.
We'll come back.
Let me gather my
Yeah.
thoughts.
Come back.